reaching 67, approaching the record of 71 set in 1971. Anticipate intervals of clouds and sun throughout the day. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's been a long time since I heard this one. A to the men on that. This is Chicago's Morning Answer, AM 560. The Answer, Chris Crockett for Dan Proft. Dan's back on Monday as we rock your roll all the way into the weekend. Okay, Alderman Ray Lopez, it's hard not to be a fan of his. Joining us from the 15th Ward, of course, Alderman Ray Lopez. Hello, Ray. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Chris. Happy Friday to you and all of the listeners today.
Very happy Friday. So you're proposing something, a sort of a deal where the illegals who have been here for a long time, not coming in under Biden-Harris, but before that, been here without any criminal record for 10 years, pay a fine of $2,500, and then maybe work out a deal with Trump on that to say that they have amnesty or they can stay here. But you are openly saying the Biden-Harris illegals need to go as part of that deal. If you want to expound upon that a little bit before I ask you a few questions on that.
Yeah, sure. So about 3 weeks ago, I sent the President, Donald Trump, a letter stating that we can create a solution together, a bifurcated solution that addresses both the long-term individuals who have been here who don't have legal residency or status here in the United States, the long-term undocumented, versus the 15 million individuals who are granted legal protections to stay in the United States under the Biden-Harris administration through the manipulation of amnesty. What I had proposed was that we look at those individuals who've been here before Obama was president, who were promised action and legalized status, whether they were dreamers or whatnot. And let's say, look at their criminal backgrounds. And if they have clean, clear criminal backgrounds for at least 10 years and are willing to pay a fee to be, I said $2,500, then the president, with his executive authority, can give them a pardon and create a pathway for them to have legalized status so that, one, the vast majority who are not criminals, not dangerous to our country, can stay and actually start positively contributing to our economy, with our taxes and things of that nature. Anyone else who doesn't fit the bill, they can be shown the door, especially if they have criminal records. And then looking back at the Biden-Harris folks, what Joe Biden allowed was for their asylum cases to be heard 7, 8, 10 years from now. That's completely unacceptable because, one, we'll never find them. Two, they'll start having families, and per the Supreme Court, you can't separate families. So it's a de facto citizenship entry for them. Trump can change that. He's already started taking away their legal protections of 600,000 of them a few months ago, but there's more work to be done. So if you move their cases up, you realize that their claims are BS, then you could start sending them back to their country of origin.
Alderman Lopez, one of the things that I think about in this is, and I know that we saw in reports that Governor Pritzker supposedly open to maybe talking to Trump about something like this. But do you really think Pritzker, would go anywhere near allowing the Biden-Harris illegals to be kicked out? Because he seems to not.
No.
Know what? No, he won't.
I'm just going to stop you right there. No, there's no way that I envision Governor saying the migrant asylum seekers need to leave, because that has been a huge multi-billion-dollar cash cow for so many of the organizations and not-for-profit patronage networks that benefit the Democratic Party. And I honestly don't even believe that Pritzker would agree for what I said for the long-term undocumented, the mostly Mexican population here in the state of Illinois, because that takes away his ability to continue to point the finger at Donald Trump as the boogeyman and not as a man trying to find a compromise and a solution to a problem that basically has eluded almost every president before him.
I want to ask you about something else, too. When you look at this incredibly stupid business tax, $21 per head, that Brandon Johnson wants to do, he went from, as you know, companies of 100 employees or more, $21 a head tax, to now saying, if you're 200 or more, he's just pulling arbitrary stuff out of his head. The destruction that this will do to businesses, to corporations who do a lot for the city of Chicago, it's unbelievable how horrible this idea is.
Absolutely, and I have to correct you. I don't think he's pulling them out of his head. I think he's pulling them out of somewhere else.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yep.
But when you look at, it's easy to point the finger at Amazon. It's easy to point the finger at Walmart and say, the billionaires have to pay. That's great rhetoric for a socialist and a communist,
right,
but it doesn't really match reality. Because when you take, for example, just this Tuesday, I was at Soldier Field honoring our veterans with the mayor for Veterans Day. And Jewel Osco, a local company, was supporting a veterans organization. Now, Jewel Osco employs 35,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
So according to Mayor Johnson, they would have to pay the city of Chicago nearly $7 million a year.
My gosh.
Simply for the joy of operating in the city of Chicago. Now, I've heard the mayor talk about food deserts. I've heard plenty of people talk about disinvestment. And they always try to point the finger, though it's some big conspiracy, but it's not. When you have bad policies like this one that chase business away, that hamper growth and stifle our local economies, this is why people don't invest in neighborhoods, because they simply can't afford all of these surcharges, taxes, and fees that are compounded on top of the price of doing business.
Alderman Lopez, I wanted to also ask you about this. I want to share with you a Tribune editorial about this. I'm going to read a few things and get your reaction. Corporate Chicago, they wrote, has committed to hiring 20,000 residents on the south and west sides over the next 5 years, an effort that goes well beyond their own employment goals. The business community already has invested $24 million in workforce development to prepare future employees for those jobs. To attempt to smear Chicago's civic-minded business community in order to plug a deficit with taxes on the very companies so crucial to Chicago's future and which have stepped up so impressively in the recent years on the number one issue facing the city is nothing less than appalling. Going on, they write, we hear that members of Brandon Johnson's administration are telling alders the same business community that voluntarily offered an eye-popping $100 million to scale community violence intervention in Chicago's neighborhoods, most afflicted by gun violence, has not stepped up sufficiently. They've said that most of that $100 million in private support provided last year and the additional $100 million pledged at the time have come from philanthropic sources rather than businesses, quote unquote. It's offensive, says the vice president of public safety at the Civic Committee and Commercial Club of Chicago. We have 26 companies that are part of this overall effort. There is no more offensive tax to a company than a job tax. It's baffling that a mayor of a city would do this. Thoughts?
They're 100% correct. Even if you are hiring 20,000 people beyond your goal, that means you're putting more people to work than you need. You're taking a profitable loss to accomplish that goal for the purposes of employing people, for lifting people up out of poverty, which is something that the mayor does not understand. And keeping in mind also that additional 20,000 is payroll tax and all of that and hourly wages. But according to Mayor Johnson, there should be a $5 million surcharge for the pleasure of doing that based on his head tax. All of this is asinine, backwards economic policy from a group that claims to be highly educated and understand how things work. They do not. If you want to be able to afford the things that they claim that they want to do for our communities, investing in neighborhoods and community violence prevention and all of these treatment on trauma crap that they talk about incessantly, you need money to do that. And to create money, you need to create revenue. And to create revenue, you need to create growth. Anything you do to stifle growth, particularly in a fragile economy like we have now, while you have $32 billion in outstanding debt that you need to pay for, is absolutely the wrong thing. And unfortunately, they've got 472 days left to this administration to screw things up. That's why it's important for people like myself and others to continue to call out bad policies, bad economic decisions, and to keep fighting and letting the people know that we are not just taking this on the chin simply because he's the mayor of the city of Chicago.
And I just saw that Coinbase, I'm sitting in the state of Texas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Coinbase just announced they're leaving Delaware for Texas because of our low regulations, so many different things compared to Delaware, for example. But, that's the story of Chicago and Illinois, too. It's breathtaking what they're doing. You guys get calls all the time, don't you? Businesses, companies are getting calls all the time, not you, but the businesses, to come to Texas, to come to Florida. They're recruiting heavily, aren't they?
Well, you have major businesses who are always willing to move and leave. We saw Ken Griffin do that a few years ago. You see McDonald's CEO said we may be leaving Chicago. We've seen United Airlines, our hometown airlines, quote unquote, say they're going to leave Chicago. We've seen Walgreens scale back and is on the verge of collapse right now. Yep. This is all of our pro-criminal policies that allow them to be looted every single day. All of these things have real-world impacts, but those are the large companies that we're talking about. Now, think of the strain on the small mom-and-pop stores that make up the vast majority of our economy here in the city of Chicago. Those grocery stores and corner stores in our neighborhoods that support not only their families but community organizations and things of that nature. They can't manage the strain put on them by City Hall anymore. When fines and fees are exorbitant, when it takes 18 months to get a simple permit, upon which you're going to get 3 citations for not having that permit in the meantime, it doesn't make sense. And we need leaders who understand that. It's very common sense, which is why you and your listeners can easily relate to everything that I just articulated because they know it and feel it and see it. But sadly, so many of the Democratic Party are just concerned with maintaining the narrative, maintaining the party line and pushing forward. That is why they are oftentimes viewed as the greater of the two evils and nationally viewed with, I think, a 68% disapproval rating at this point.
Yep. Alderman Lopez, I want to play this unbelievable IG report from CPS, The Waste. Let me play a little bit for you from this story. Here we go.
It's a lot. There's a lot included in this report, Marie. We're talking wildlife safaris, hot air balloon trips, even camel rides, okay? All at the district's expense and at a time, if you remember, when CPS is trying to close a $700 million budget gap.
By our judgment, the costs were frequently excessive. And in fact, they frequently exceeded CPS's spending limits.
One of them, a $20,000 trip to Egypt that was never pre-approved. The report shows some people charged CPS for limo rides to the airport and education retreats at spas. Others would go to conferences at Disney World, but wouldn't attend a similar event in Chicago.
CPS should find a way to do more professional development here in Chicago, close to home. At that Vegas conference, they were staying at 4 or 5-star hotels, including Caesar's Palace and the Bellagio.
Almost 90% of those who attended exceeded the district's hotel room spending limit. District travel spending more than doubled between 2019 and 2024. But remember, CPS announced earlier this year it faced a more than $700 million budget hole. And this summer, the district laid off hundreds of staff and made other cuts to close the gap, with more cuts likely.
Alderman Lopez, the IG, Inspector General for CPS, tried to say, well, I'm not saying this was intentional. It's just, I think this is rabidly intentional. I think it's entitlement to rip us off and then continue to demand we give more and more money to a sieve. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's gross and disgusting that people would be doing and manipulating taxpayer dollars from an institution that can barely do the function that it was designed to do, which is to educate our children. 2/3 of our children can't do math. 2/3 of our children can't read at grade level. And yet we have CTU members led by Stacey Davis Gates flying out to Las Vegas to go to a quote unquote educational conference. You could smell that BS a mile away. And it's really, frankly, disgusting, particularly when you have Stacey Davis Gates drooling at the idea of a TIF surplus to go to CPS so that they can have more money for their contracts for the highest paid teachers in the nation, all the while our poor students are being completely ignored. And mind you, private schools, Catholic schools, have better test scores, have better educational systems for about 1/3 of the price of what we're providing Chicago public school students.
Alderman Lopez, real quickly, you did a great job calling out the Chicago treasurer, Melissa Conyers-Irvin. This is some audio from your standing up to her and calling her out.
Upstairs, and I thought my ears deceived me. Did you just say you're going to disinvest from the United States?
And then her reply?
So I actually believe that not investing in the authoritarian regime of Donald Trump is investing in the value of the residents of Chicago. So I happen to disagree.
So here she is, in your words, boosting her congressional campaign with taxpayer dollars. I'm seeing folks like Jonathan Turley call this out in his column, Kamikaze Economics, Destroying Your Own Portfolio. We have just so much unbelievable calling out of this. This is hurting our money. Alderman Conway, 34th Ward, former investment banker, correctly described it by far the most liquid and secure debt instrument in the history of the world. So this woman seems to be throwing our money away so that she can get a profile raise by attacking Trump with our money. Talk to me.
Well, I will say she did get her profile raised, that's for sure, for showing how inept she is at her job with regards to making sure that you are providing safeguards for taxpayer dollars. There's nothing more guaranteed in terms of return on investment than United States Treasury bills, and to say that you're somehow going to make it up in money market accounts is ridiculous. But I think more importantly than that, this is the kind of performative political nonsense that we see seeping into every level of government in opposition to Donald Trump. We're not talking about investing in Trump Tower, Trump Casino, or Trump Airlines. We're talking about investing in the United States of America, our country, our home. Why wouldn't you do that? And clearly she wasn't expecting to be called out in this way. A number of my colleagues were disgusted by her antics. And we are going to be taking measures today to ensure that, one, we're going to continue to invest as a city in the United States Treasury, that we're going to also follow the president's lead in divesting from those groups that we should be avoiding in terms of our investments, like the cartel-linked organizations that Donald Trump just announced yesterday, as well as various CCP organizations that help provide fentanyl ingredients to drug traffickers. That's who we should be divesting from, not the United States of America.
Alderman Ray Lopez, really a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for continuing to call out this insane BS, waste, and graft. Thank you for coming on today on The Answer, okay?
Thanks, Chris.
All right. Have a great day. Okay, just what a bunch of sick things that we're talking about going on with the bilking of taxpayers, wasting our money, all sorts of